Wayne Gretzky.
Wayne Douglas Gretzky, CC is a Canadian former professional ice hockey player and former head coach. He played 20 seasons in the National Hockey League for 4 teams from 1979 to 1999. Nicknamed the Great One, he has been called the greatest hockey player ever by many sportswriters, players, and the NHL itself. He is the leading point scorer in NHL history, with more assists than any other player has points, and is the only NHL player to total over 200 points in one season, a feat he accomplished 4 times. In addition, he tallied over 100 points in 16 professional seasons, 14 of them consecutive. At the time of his retirement in 1999, he held 61 NHL records, 40 regular season records, 15 playoff records, and 6 All-Star records. As of 2009, he still holds 60 NHL records. Born and raised in Brantford, Ontario, Gretzky honed his skills at a backyard rink and regularly played minor hockey at a level far above his peers. Despite his unimpressive stature, strength and speed, Gretzky's intelligence and reading of the game were unrivaled. He was adept at dodging checks from opposing players, and he could consistently anticipate where the puck was going to be and execute the right move at the right time. Gretzky also became known for setting up behind his opponent's net, an area that was nicknamed Gretzky's office. In 1978, he signed with the Indianapolis Racers of the World Hockey Association, WHA, where he briefly played before being traded to the Edmonton Oilers. When the WHA folded, the Oilers joined the NHL, where he established many scoring records and led his team to 4 Stanley Cup championships. His trade to the Los Angeles Kings on August 9, 1988, had an immediate impact on the team's performance, eventually leading them to the 1993 Stanley Cup Finals, and he is credited with popularizing hockey in California. Gretzky played briefly for the St. Louis Blues before finishing his career with the New York Rangers. Gretzky captured 9 Hart trophies as the most valuable player, 10 Art Ross trophies for most points in a season, 2 Conn Smythe trophies as playoff MVP, and 5 Lester B. Pearson Awards, now called the Ted Lindsay Award, for most outstanding player as judged by other players. He won the Lady Byng Trophy for sportsmanship and performance 5 times, and often spoke out against fighting in hockey. After his retirement in 1999, he was immediately inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, making him the most recent player to have the waiting period waived. The NHL retired his jersey number 99 league-wide, making him the only player to receive this honor. He was one of 6 players voted to the International Ice Hockey Federation's, IIHF, Centennial All-Star Team. Gretzky became executive director for the Canadian national men's hockey team during the 2002 Winter Olympics, in which the team won a gold medal. In 2000, he became part owner of the Phoenix Coyotes, and following the 2004-05 NHL lockout he became the team's head coach. In September 2009, following the franchise's bankruptcy, Gretzky resigned as coach and relinquished his ownership share.
Early years.
Prior to the Russian Revolution, Gretzky's paternal grandfather Anton, Tony, Gretzky, born in Grodno, fled the Russian Empire along with his family to Canada via the United States from what is now Ukraine. Following World War I, Anton would marry his wife, Mary, who immigrated from Pidaitzy, into War Poland, also now in Ukraine. Tony and Mary owned a 25-acre, 10-ha, cucumber farm in Canning, Ontario where Walter Gretzky was born and raised and where he met Wayne's mother, Phyllis Leone, née Hopkins. They married in 1960, and lived in an apartment in Brantford, Ontario, where Walter worked for Bell Telephone Canada. The family moved into a house on Veradi Avenue in Brantford 7 months after Wayne was born, chosen partly because its yard was flat enough to make an ice rink on every winter. Wayne was joined by a sister, Kim, b. 1963, and brothers Keith, Glenn and Brent. The family would regularly visit Tony and Mary's farm and watch Hockey Night in Canada together. By age 2, Wayne was trying to score goals against Mary using a souvenir stick. The farm was where Wayne skated on ice for the first time, aged 2 years, 10 months. Gretzky's mother was of English descent, and was related to British General Sir Isaac Brock, a hero of the War of 1812. Gretzky's father's ancestry is typically described as either Belarusian, Ukrainian, or Polish. In 1982, during a Ukrainian Heritage Day festival at Ontario Place, he sent his best wishes and memorabilia to be included in a photo exhibit on Ukrainian-Canadian athletes. In a 1999 Hockey Hall of Fame inductee press conference, Gretzky stated, "Thank God I'm Polish," when joking about another inductee's Scottish kilt. Gretzky's father Walter grew up in a Ukrainian-speaking family, and in interviews has mentioned both his parents' Belarusian and Polish origins. Anton Gretzky has been described as having been born in Russia with Ukrainian forebears. Walter taught Wayne, Keith, Brent, Glenn and their friends hockey on a rink he made in the backyard of the family home, nicknamed the Wally Coliseum. Drills included skating around Javex bleach bottles and tin cans, and flipping pucks over scattered hockey sticks to be able to pick up the puck again in full flight. Additionally, Walter gave the advice to skate where the puck's going, not where it's been. Wayne was a classic prodigy whose extraordinary skills made him the target of jealous parents. Gretzky's first team, at age 6, was a team of 10-year-olds, starting a pattern where Gretzky always played at a level far above his peers through his minor hockey years. His first coach, Dick Martin, remarked that he handled the puck better than the 10-year-olds. According to Martin, Wayne was so good that you could have a boy of your own who was a tremendous hockey player, and he'd get overlooked because of what the Gretzky kid was doing. The sweaters for 10-year-olds were far too large for Gretzky, who coped by tucking the sweater into his pants on the right side. Gretzky continued doing this throughout his NHL career. By the age of 10, Gretzky had scored an astonishing 378 goals and 139 assists in just one season with the Brantford Nadrowski Steelers. His play now attracted media attention beyond his hometown of Brantford, including a profile by John Iaboni in the Toronto Telegram in October 1971. By age 13, he had scored over 1,000 goals. His play attracted considerable negative attention from other players' parents, including those of his teammates, and he was often booed. According to Walter, the Kappa was being booed on Brantford Day at Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens in February 1975. When Gretzky was 14, his family arranged for him to move to and play hockey in Toronto, partly to further his career, and partly to remove him from the uncomfortable pressure he faced in his hometown. The Gretzks had to legally challenge the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association to win Wayne the right to play elsewhere, which was disallowed at the time. The Gretzks won, and Wayne played Junior B hockey with the Toronto Nationals. He earned Rookie of the Year honors in the Metro Junior B Hockey League in 1975-76, with 60 points in 28 games. The following year, as a 15-year-old, he had 72 points in 32 games with the same team, then known as the Seneca Nationals. That year, he also played 3 games with the Peterborough Petes in the Ontario Hockey Association as an emergency call-up, and even then the Great One impressed scouts with his abilities despite his small stature and youth. In addition, he signed with his first agent, Bob Bink. Despite his offensive statistics, 2 teams bypassed him in the 1977 OMJHL midget draft of 16-year-olds. The Oshawa Generals picked Tom McCarthy, and the Niagara Falls Flyers picked Steve Peters second overall. With the 3rd pick, the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds selected Gretzky, even though Walter Gretzky had told the team that Wayne would not move to Sault Ste. Marie, a northern Ontario city that inflicts a heavy traveling schedule on its junior team. The Gretzks made an arrangement with a local family they knew, and Wayne played a season in the Ontario Hockey League at the age of 16 with the Greyhounds. It was with the Greyhounds that Wayne first wore the number 99 on his jersey. He originally wanted to wear number 9, for his hockey hero Gordie Howe, but it was already being worn by teammate Brian Guilazzi. At coach Muzz McPherson's suggestion, Gretzky settled on 99. At 16, in his single year at the major junior level, Gretzky surpassed the OMJHL single-season scoring record, winning the OMJHL Rookie of the Year and most sportsmanlike awards.
World Hockey Association.
In 1978, the World Hockey Association (WHA) league was in competition with the established NHL. The NHL did not allow the signing of players under the age of 20, but the WHA had no rules regarding such signings. Several WHA teams courted Gretzky, notably the Indianapolis Racers and the Birmingham Bulls. Birmingham Bulls owner John F. Bassett wanted to confront the NHL by signing as many young and promising superstars as possible and saw Gretzky as the most promising young prospect, but it was Racers owner Nelson Skalbania who, on June 12, 1978, signed 17-year-old Gretzky to a 7-year personal services contract worth $1.75 million. Gretzky scored his first professional goal against Dave Dryden of the Edmonton Oilers in his 5th game, and his second goal 4 seconds later. Skalbania opted to have Gretzky sign a personal services contract rather than a standard player contract, in part because he knew a deal to take some WHA teams into the NHL was in the works. He also knew that the Racers could not hope to be included among those teams, and hoped to keep the Racers alive long enough to collect compensation from the surviving teams when the WHA dissolved, as well as any funds earned from selling the young star. Gretzky only played 8 games for Indianapolis. The Racers were losing $40,000 per game. Skalbania told Gretzky he would be moved, offering him a choice between the Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets. On the advice of his agent, Gretzky picked the Oilers, but the move was not that simple. On November 2, Gretzky, goaltender Eddie Mio and forward Peter Driscoll were put on a private plane, not knowing where they would land and what team they would be joining. While in the air, Skalbania worked on the deal. Skalbania offered to play a game of backgammon with Winnipeg owner Michael Gabutti, the stakes being if Gabutti won, he would get Gretzky, and if he lost, he had to give Skalbania a share of the Jets. Gabutti turned down the proposal and the players landed in Edmonton. Mio paid the $4,000 bill for the flight with his credit card. Skalbania sold Gretzky, Mio and Driscoll to his former partner, and then owner of the Edmonton Oilers, Peter Pocklington. Although the announced price was $850,000, Pocklington actually paid $700,000. The money was not enough to keep the Racers alive. They folded that December. One of the highlights of Gretzky's season was his appearance in the 1979 WHA All-Star Game. The format was a 3-game series between the WHA All-Stars and Dynamo Moscow, played at Edmonton's Northlands Coliseum. The WHA All-Stars were coached by Jacques Demers, who put Gretzky on a line with his boyhood idol Gordie Howe and Howe's son, Mark. In Game 1, the line scored 7 points, and the WHA All-Stars won by a score of 4-2. In Game 2, Gretzky and Mark Howe each scored a goal and Gordie Howe picked up an assist as the WHA won 4-2. The line did not score in the final game, but the WHA won by a score of 4-3. On Gretzky's 18th birthday, January 26, 1979, Pocklington signed him to a 10-year personal services contract, the longest in hockey history at the time, worth $3 million Canadian dollars, with options for 10 more years. Gretzky finished 3rd in the league in scoring at 110 points, behind Robbie F. Teorique and Ariel Cloutier. Gretzky captured the Lou Kaplan Trophy as Rookie of the Year, and helped the Oilers to 1st overall in the league. The Oilers reached the Evo World Trophy Finals, where they lost to the Winnipeg Jets in 6 games. It was Gretzky's only year in the WHA, as the league folded following the season.
NHL career. Edmonton Oilers 1979–1988.
After the World Hockey Association folded in 1979, the Edmonton Oilers and 3 other teams joined the NHL. Under the merger agreement, the Oilers, like the other surviving WHA teams, were to be allowed to protect 2 goaltenders and 2 skaters from being reclaimed by the established NHL teams. Under normal circumstances, Gretzky would have been removed from the Oilers and placed in the pool for the 1979 NHL entry draft, but his personal services contract prevented this. Gretzky's success in the WHA carried over into the NHL, despite some critics suggesting he would struggle in what was considered the bigger, tougher, and more talented league. In his first NHL season, 1979-80, Gretzky was awarded the Hart Memorial Trophy as the league's most valuable player, the first of 8 in a row, and tied for the scoring lead with Marcel Dionne with 137 points. Although Gretzky played 79 games to Dionne's 80, Dionne was awarded the Art Ross Trophy since he scored more goals, 53 versus 51. The season still stands as the highest point total by a first-year player in NHL history. Gretzky became the youngest player to score 50 goals but was not eligible for the Calder Memorial Trophy, given to the top NHL rookie, because of his previous year of WHA experience. The Calder was awarded to Boston Bruins defenseman Ray Bourque. In his second season, Gretzky won the Art Ross, the first of 7 consecutive, with a then-record 164 points, breaking both Bobby Orr's record for assists in a season, 102, and Phil Esposito's record for points in a season, 152. He won his second straight Hart Trophy. In the first game of the 1981 playoffs versus the Montreal Canadiens, Gretzky had 5 assists. This was a single-game playoff record. During the 1981-82 season, he surpassed a record that had stood for 35 years, 50 goals in 50 games. Set by Maurice "Rocket" Richard during the 1944-45 NHL season and tied by Mike Bossy during the 1980-81 NHL season, Gretzky accomplished the feat in only 39 games. His 50th goal of the season came on December 30, 1981 in the final seconds of a 7-5 win against the Philadelphia Flyers and was his 5th of the game. Later that season, Gretzky broke Esposito's record for most goals in a season, 76, on February 24, 1982, scoring 3 goals to help beat the Buffalo Sabres 6-3. He ended the 1981-82 season with records of 92 goals, 120 assists, and 212 points in 80 games, becoming the only player in NHL history to break the 200-point mark. That year, Gretzky became the first hockey player and first Canadian to be named Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year. He was also named 1982 Sportsman of the Year by Sports Illustrated. The Canadian press also named Gretzky Newsmaker of the Year in 1982. The following season saw Gretzky break his own assists record 3 more times, 125 in 1982-83, 135 in 1984-85, and 163 in 1985-86. He also bettered that mark, 120 assists, in 1986-87 with 121 and 1990-91 with 122, and his point record one more time, 215, in 1985-86. By the time he finished playing in Edmonton, he held or shared 49 NHL records, which in itself was a record. The Edmonton Oilers finished first overall in their last WHA regular season. The same success was not immediate when they joined the NHL, but within 4 seasons, the Oilers were competing for the Stanley Cup. The Oilers were a young, strong team featuring, in addition to Gretzky, future Hall of Famers including forwards Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson and Jari Kurri, defenseman Paul Coffey, and goaltender Grant Fu. Gretzky was its captain from 1983-88. In 1983, they made it to the Stanley Cup final, only to be swept by the 3-time defending champion New York Islanders. The following season, the Oilers met the Islanders in the final again, this time winning the Stanley Cup, their first of 5 in 7 years. Gretzky was named an Officer of the Order of Canada on June 25, 1984, for outstanding contribution to the sport of hockey. Since the order ceremonies are always held during the hockey season, it took 13 years and 7 months, and 2 governors general, before he could accept the honor. He was promoted to Companion of the Order of Canada in 2009 for his continued contributions to the world of hockey, notably as one of the best players of all time, as well as for his social engagement as a philanthropist, volunteer and role model for countless young people. The Oilers also won the Cup with Gretzky in 1985, 1987 and 1988. When the Oilers joined the NHL, Gretzky continued to play under his personal services contract with Oilers owner Peter Pocklington. This arrangement came under increased scrutiny by the mid-1980s, especially following reports that Pocklington had used the contract as collateral to help secure a $31 million loan with the Alberta government-owned Alberta Treasury branches. Amid growing concern around the league that a financial institution might be able to lay claim to Gretzky's rights in the event the heavily leveraged Pocklington were to declare bankruptcy, as well growing dissatisfaction on the part of Gretzky and his advisors, in 1987 Gretzky and Pocklington agreed to replace the personal services contract with a standard NHL contract.
The Gretzky Rule.
In June 1985, as part of a package of 5 rule changes to be implemented for the 1985-86 season, the NHL Board of Governors made a decision to introduce offsetting penalties, where neither team lost a man when coincidental penalties were called. The effect of calling offsetting penalties was felt immediately in the NHL, because during the early 1980s, when better teams like the Oilers entered a 4-on-4 or 3-on-3 situation with an opponent, the stronger, faster team frequently scored 1 or more goals. Gretzky held a press conference one day after being awarded the Hart Memorial Trophy, criticizing the NHL for punishing teams and players who previously benefited. The rule change became known as the Gretzky Rule. The rule was changed back in the 1990s.
The trade.
2 hours after the Oilers won the Stanley Cup in 1988, Gretzky learned from his father that the Oilers were planning to deal him to another team. Walter Gretzky had known for months, but kept it from Wayne so as not to upset him. According to Walter, Wayne was being shopped to Los Angeles, Detroit, and Vancouver, and Pocklington needed money as his other business ventures were not doing well. At first, Wayne did not want to leave Edmonton, but he later received a call while on his honeymoon from Los Angeles Kings owner Bruce McNall asking permission to meet and discuss the deal. Gretzky informed McNall that his prerequisites for a deal to take place were that Marty McSorley and Mike Krzyzewski join him as teammates in Los Angeles. After the details of the trade were finalized by McNall and Pocklington, one final condition had to be met: Gretzky had to call Pocklington and request a trade. When Pocklington told Oilers general manager and head coach Glenn Sather about his plans to trade Gretzky to LA, Sather tried to stop the deal, but when he found out that Gretzky had been involved in the negotiations, he changed his attitude and requested Luc Robitaille in exchange. The Kings refused, instead offering Jimmy Carson. On August 9, 1988, in a move that heralded significant change in the NHL, the Oilers traded Gretzky, along with McSorley and Krzyzewski, to the Kings for Carson, Martin Gelinas, $15 million in cash, and the Kings' first-round draft picks in 1989, later traded to the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey selected Jason Miller, 1991, Martin Rucinski, and 1993, Nick Stordua. The trade, as it came to be known, upset Canadians to the extent that New Democratic Party House Leader Nelson Reed demanded that the government block it, and Pocklington was burned in effigy outside the Northlands Coliseum. Gretzky himself was considered a traitor by some Canadians for turning his back on his adopted hometown, and his home country. His motivation was widely rumored to be the furtherance of his wife's acting career. In Gretzky's first appearance in Edmonton after the trade, a game that was nationally televised in Canada, he received a 4-minute standing ovation. The arena was sold out, and the attendance of 17,503 was the Oilers' biggest crowd ever to that date. Large cheers erupted for his first shift, his first touch of the puck, his 2 assists, and for Mark Messier's body check of Gretzky into the boards. After the game, Gretzky took the opportunity to confirm his patriotism. "I'm still proud to be a Canadian. I didn't desert my country. I moved because I was traded and that's where my job is. But I'm Canadian to the core. I hope Canadians understand that." After the 1988-89 season, a life-size bronze statue of Gretzky was erected outside the Northlands Coliseum, holding the Stanley Cup over his head, picture shown above, to the right.
Los Angeles Kings 1988-1996.
The Kings named Gretzky their alternate captain. He made an immediate impact on the ice, scoring on his first shot on goal in the first regular season game. The Kings got off to their best start ever, winning 4 straight on their way to qualifying for the playoffs. Despite being underdogs against the defending Stanley Cup champion Edmonton Oilers in the Smythe Division semi-finals, Gretzky led the Kings to a shocking upset of his old squad, spearheading the Kings' return from a 3-1 series deficit to win the series 4-3. He was nervous that Edmonton would greet him with boos, but they were eagerly waiting for him. For only the second time in his NHL career, Gretzky finished second in scoring, but narrowly beat out Pittsburgh's Mario Lemieux, who scored 199 points, for the Hart Trophy as MVP. In 1990, the Associated Press named him Male Athlete of the Decade. Gretzky's first season in Los Angeles saw a marked increase in attendance and fan interest in a city not previously known for following hockey. The Kings now boasted of numerous sellouts. Many credit Gretzky's arrival with putting non-traditional U.S. hockey markets on the NHL map. Not only did California receive 2 more NHL franchises, the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim and San Jose Sharks, during Gretzky's tenure in L.A., but his popularity in Southern California proved to be an impetus in the league establishing teams in other parts of the U.S. Sunbelt. Gretzky was sidelined for much of the 1992-93 regular season with an upper back injury, the only year in which he did not lead his team in scoring. However, he performed very well in the playoffs, notably when he scored a hat-trick in Game 7 of the Campbell Conference Finals against the Toronto Maple Leafs. This victory propelled the Kings into the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in franchise history, where they faced the Montreal Canadiens. After winning the first game of the series by a score of 4-1, the team lost the next 3 games in overtime, and then fell 4-1 in the deciding 5th game where Gretzky failed to get a shot on net. The next season, Gretzky broke Gordie Howe's career goal-scoring record and won the scoring title, but the team began a long slide, and despite numerous player and coaching moves, they failed to qualify for the playoffs again until 1998. Long before then, running out of time and looking for a team with which he could win again, Gretzky had been traded from the Kings at his request. During the 1994-95 NHL lockout, Gretzky and some friends, including Mark Messier, Marty McSorley, Brett Hull, and Steve Yzerman, formed the '99 All-Stars Tour and played some exhibition games in various countries.
St. Louis Blues 1996.
On February 27, 1996, Gretzky joined the St. Louis Blues in a trade for Patrice Tardif, Roman Vopat, Craig Johnson, and 2 draft picks, Peter Hogan and Matt Zulk. He partially orchestrated the trade after reports surfaced that he was unhappy in Los Angeles. At the time of the trade, the Blues and New York Rangers emerged as front-runners, but the Blues met his salary demands. Gretzky was immediately named the team's captain. He scored 37 points in 31 games for the team in the regular season and the playoffs, and the Blues came within 1 game of the conference finals. However, the chemistry that everyone expected with winger Brett Hull never developed, and coach Mike Keenan publicly criticized him. Gretzky rejected a 3-year deal worth $15 million with the Blues, and on July 22, he signed with the New York Rangers as a free agent, rejoining longtime Oilers teammate Mark Messier for a 2-year $8 million, plus incentives, contract.
New York Rangers 1996-1999.
Gretzky ended his professional playing career with the New York Rangers, where he played his final 3 seasons and helped the team reach the Eastern Conference Finals in 1997. The Rangers were defeated in the conference finals in 5 games by the Philadelphia Flyers, despite Gretzky leading the Rangers in the playoffs with 10 goals and 10 assists. For the first time in his NHL career, Gretzky was not named captain, although he briefly wore the captain's C in 1998 when Captain Brian Leetch was injured and out of the lineup. After the 1996-97 season, Mark Messier signed a free agent contract with the Vancouver Canucks, ending the brief reunion of Messier and Gretzky after just 1 season. The Rangers did not return to the playoffs during the remainder of Gretzky's career. In 1997, prior to his retirement, the Hockey News named a committee of 50 hockey experts, former NHL players, past and present writers, broadcasters, coaches and hockey executives, to select and rank the 50 greatest players in NHL history. The experts voted Gretzky number 1. Gretzky said that he would have voted Bobby Orr or Gordie Howe as the best of all time. The 1998-99 season was his last season. He reached one milestone in this last season, breaking the professional total, regular season and playoffs, goal-scoring record of 1,071, which had been held by Gordie Howe. Gretzky was having difficulty scoring this season and finished with only 9 goals, contributing to this being the only season in which he failed to average at least a point per game. But his last goal brought his scoring total for his combined NHL-WHA career to 1,072, one more than Howe. As the season wound down, there was media speculation that Gretzky would retire, but he refused to announce his retirement. His last NHL game in Canada was on April 15, 1999, a 2-2 tie with the Ottawa Senators, the Rangers' second-to-last game of the season. Following the contest, instead of the usual 3 stars announcement, Gretzky was named as all 3 stars. It was only after this game, after returning to New York, that Gretzky announced his retirement, before the Rangers' last game of the season. The final game of Gretzky's career was a 2-1 overtime loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins on April 18, 1999, in Madison Square Garden. Although the game involved 2 American teams, both national anthems were played, and with the lyrics slightly adjusted to accommodate Gretzky's departure. In place of the lyrics "O Canada, we stand on guard for thee," Bryan Adams ad-libbed, "We're going to miss you, Wayne Gretzky." The Star-Spangled Banner, as sung by John Amiranti, was altered to include the words "In the land of Wayne Gretzky." Gretzky ended his career with a final point, assisting on the lone New York goal scored by Brian Leetch. At the time of his retirement, Gretzky was the second-to-last WHA player still active in professional hockey, Mark Messier, who himself attended the game along with other representatives of the Edmonton dynasty, being the last. Gretzky told Scott Morrison that the final game of his career was his greatest day. He recounted, "Madison Square Garden photographer George Kalinsky's image of Gretzky waving to the crowd at the Garden, like his image of Messier after the Rangers won Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals 5 years earlier, would become an iconic image to the Rangers and their fans, documenting one of the greatest moments at the Garden, and even to hockey fans."
International play.
Gretzky made his first international appearance as a member of the Canadian national junior team at the 1978 World Junior Championships in Montreal, Quebec. He was the youngest player to compete in the tournament at the age of 16. He went on to lead the tournament in scoring with 17 points to earn All-Star Team and Best Forward honors. His 17 points remain the most scored by a 16-year-old in the World Junior Championships. Canada finished with a bronze medal. Gretzky debuted with the Team Canada's men's team at the 1981 Canada Cup. He led the tournament in scoring with 12 points en route to a second-place finish to the Soviet Union, losing 8-1 in the final. 7 months later, Gretzky joined Team Canada for the 1982 World Championships in Finland. He notched 14 points in 10 games, including a 2-goal, 2-assist effort in Canada's final game against Sweden to earn the bronze. Gretzky did not win his first international competition until the 1984 Canada Cup, when Canada defeated Sweden in a best-of-3 finals. He led the tournament in scoring for the second consecutive time and was named to the All-Star team. Gretzky's international career highlight arguably came 3 years later at the 1987 Canada Cup. Gretzky has called the tournament the best hockey he had played in his life. Playing on a line with Pittsburgh Penguins superstar Mario Lemieux, he recorded a tournament-best 21 points in 9 games. After losing the first game of a best-of-3 final series against the Soviets, Gretzky propelled Canada with a 5-assist performance in the second game, including the game-winning pass to Lemieux in overtime, to extend the tournament. In the deciding Game 3, Gretzky and Lemieux once again combined for the game winner. With the score tied 5-5 and 1:26 minutes to go in regulation, Lemieux one-timed a pass from Gretzky on a 3-on-1 with defenseman Larry Murphy. Lemieux scored to win the tournament for Canada. The play is widely regarded as one of the most memorable plays in Canadian international competition. The 1991 Canada Cup marked the last time the tournament was played under the Canada Cup moniker. Gretzky led the tournament for the fourth and final time with 12 points in 7 games. He did not, however, compete in the final against the United States due to a back injury. Canada nevertheless won in 2 games by scores of 4-1 and 4-2. 5 years later, the tournament was revived and renamed the World Cup in 1996. It marked the first time Gretzky did not finish as the tournament's leading scorer with 7 points in 8 games for 4th overall. The 1996 World Cup also ended Canada's winning streak at the tournament, including the Canada Cups, losing in 3 games of a best-of-3 final. Leading up to the 1998 Winter Olympics in Nagano, Japan, it was announced that NHL players would be eligible to play for the first time. Gretzky was named to the club on November 29, 1997. However, Gretzky was passed over for the captaincy, along with several other Canadian veterans including Steve Yzerman and Ray Bourque in favor of the younger Eric Lindros. Expectations were high for the Canadian team, but the team lost to the Czech Republic in the semi-finals. The game went to a shootout with a 1-1 tie after overtime, but Gretzky was controversially not selected by coach Mark Crawford as one of the 5 shooters. Team Canada then lost the bronze medal Game 3-2 to Finland to finish without a medal. The Olympics marked Gretzky's 8th and final international appearance, finishing with 4 assists in 6 games. He retired from international play holding the records for most goals, 20, most assists, 28, and most overall points, 48, in best-on-best hockey.
Strategy and effect on NHL play.
Gretzky had a major influence on the style of play of the Edmonton Oilers and in the NHL as a whole, helping to inspire a more team-based strategy. Using this approach, the Oilers, led by Gretzky, became the highest-scoring team in league history. He was, I think, the first Canadian forward to play a true team game, said hockey writer and former NHL goalie Ken Dryden. The focus of the game prior to Gretzky's arrival, he said, especially among the Canadian teams, was on the player with the puck, in getting the puck to a star player who would make the big play. Gretzky reversed that. He knew he wasn't big enough, strong enough, or even fast enough to do what he wanted to do if others focused on him. Like a magician, he had to direct attention elsewhere, to his 4 teammates on the ice with him, to create the momentary distraction in order to move unnoticed into the open ice where size and strength didn't matter. Gretzky made his opponents compete with 5 players, not 1, and he made his teammates full partners to the game. He made them skate to his level and pass and finish up to his level or they would be embarrassed. Between 1982 and 1985, the Edmonton Oilers averaged 423 goals a season, when no previous team had scored 400, and Gretzky on his own had averaged 207 points, when no player before had racked up more than 152 in 1 year. In the past, defenders and teams had learned to devise strategies to stop opponents with the puck. Without the puck, that was interference. But now, if players without the puck skated just as hard, but faster, dodged and darted to open ice just as determinedly, but more effectively, as those with the puck, how do you shut them down? In this, Gretzky added his considerable influence as the preeminent NHL star of his day to that of the Soviets, who had also developed a more team style of play, and had successfully used it against the best NHL teams, beginning in the 1972 Summit Series. The Soviets and Gretzky changed the NHL game, says Dryden. Gretzky, the kid from Brantford with the Belarusian name, was the acceptable face of Soviet hockey. No Canadian kid wanted to play like Makarov or Larionov. They all wanted to play like Gretzky. At the same time, Gretzky recognizes the contributions of their coach in the success of the Oilers. Under the guidance of Glenn Sather, our Oiler teams became adept at generating speed, developing finesse, and learning a transition game with strong European influences. Gretzky explains his style of play further.
Influences and skills.
Gretzky was certainly not the biggest or the strongest, but he is widely considered the smartest player in the history of the game. His intelligence and reading of the game were unrivaled, and he could consistently anticipate where the puck was going to be and execute the right move at the right time. His former Edmonton Oilers coach Glenn Sather said, "He was so much more intelligent. While they were using all this energy trying to rattle his teeth, he was just skating away, circling, analyzing things." Hall of Fame defenseman Bobby Orr said of Gretzky, "He passes better than anybody I've ever seen. And he thinks so far ahead." He was considered one of the most creative players in hockey. "You never knew what he was going to do," said Hockey Hall of Famer Igor Larionov. "He was improvising all the time. Every time he took the ice, there was some spontaneous decision he would make. That's what made him such a phenomenal player." Gretzky's ability to improvise came into the spotlight at the 1998 Olympics in Japan. Then an older player in the sunset of his career, he had been passed over for the captaincy of the team. But as the series continued, his unique skills made him a team leader. In addition to being a superb passer, he had a deadly shot on goal. In his first 2 seasons in the NHL, he had become known chiefly as a playmaker, and so opposing defensemen focused their efforts on foiling his attempts to pass the puck to other scorers. In response, Gretzky started shooting himself, and with amazing accuracy. Wayne Gretzky was one of the most accurate scorers in NHL history, said one biography. This is supported by statistics. For example, Phil Esposito, who set the previous goal-scoring record, needed 550 shots to score 76 goals, whereas Gretzky netted his 76th after only 287 shots, about half as many. He scored his all-time record of 92 goals with just 369 shots. He could also shoot the puck hard. Because he was so light compared to other players, goalies were often surprised by how hard Gretzky's shot was. Goalies called his shot sneaky fast. He also had a way of never hitting the puck with the same rhythm twice, making his shots harder to time and block. His size, strength, and basic athletic abilities were not considered impressive. As an 18-year-old NHL rookie in 1979, he was conspicuously underweight at 160 pounds, 73 kilograms, compared to that year's NHL average of 189 pounds. Critics at the time opined that Gretzky was too small, too wiry, and too slow to be a force in the NHL. But that year, Gretzky tied for first place in scoring, and won the Hart Trophy for the league's most valuable player. In his second year in the league, weighing just 165 pounds, he broke the previous single-season scoring record, racking up 152 points. The next year, 1981-82, at 170 pounds, still a wisp compared to the average NHL player, he set the all-time goal-scoring record, putting 92 pucks in the net. He weighed about 170 pounds for the better part of his career. According to some sources, he managed to increase his weight to 185 pounds, 84 kilograms, by his last playing year, in 1999, while others report that he weighed 175 pounds, 79 kilograms, in his final years. The 1999 NHL average was 201 pounds. During his time with the Oilers, the team conducted individual strength and stamina tests twice per year. According to Gretzky himself, He always finished dead last in peripheral vision, flexibility and strength, and could only bench press 140 pounds, 64 kilograms. Commentators say a major key to his success lay in an uncanny ability to judge the position of the other players on the ice, so much so that many suspected he enjoyed some kind of extrasensory perception. Sports commentators said that he played like he had eyes in the back of his head. Gretzky said he sensed other players more than he actually saw them. "I get a feeling about where a teammate is going to be," he said. "A lot of times, I can turn and pass without even looking." One author said, he could envision the whole rink in his mind and how players were moving within it. Because of this vision, Gretzky was sometimes called the Einstein of hockey. Veteran Canadian journalist Peter Gzowski says that Gretzky also seemed to be able to, in effect, slow down time. Gzowski explains that the most elite athletes have more room in the flow of time than ordinary athletes. Of Gretzky he said, "There is an unhurried grace to everything Gretzky does on the ice. Winding up for the slap shot, he will stop for an almost imperceptible moment at the top of his arc, like a golfer with a rhythmic swing. Gretzky uses this room to insert an extra beat into his actions. In front of the net, eyeball to eyeball with the goaltender. He will hold the puck 1 extra instant, upsetting the anticipated rhythm of the game, extending the moment. He distorts time, and not only by slowing it down. Sometimes he will release the puck before he appears to be ready, threading the pass through a maze of players precisely to the blade of a teammate's stick, or finding a chink in a goaltender's armor and slipping the puck into it before the goaltender is ready to react." However, Gretzky denied that he had any exotic innate abilities. He said that many of his advantages were a result of his father's brilliant coaching. Gretzky learned much about hockey from his father on a backyard rink at his home. Walter Gretzky had been an outstanding Junior B hockey player, but was slowed by chicken pox and failed in a tryout for the Junior A Toronto Marlboros, ending his playing career. Walter cultivated a love of hockey in his sons and provided them with a backyard rink and drills to enhance their skills. On the backyard rink, nicknamed the Wally Coliseum, winter was total hockey immersion with Walter as mentor-teacher as well as teammate. According to Brent Gretzky, "It was definitely pressed on us, but we loved the game. Without the direction of the father, I don't know where I'd be." Wayne also salutes Glenn Sather, his coach at the Edmonton Oilers, as an important influence in his development as a hockey player. Gretzky played for 10 years with the Oilers, with Sather as coach. "It's as if my father raised me until age 17, then turned me over to Slats and said, 'You take him from here.'" The rink itself was built so that Walter could keep an eye on his boys from the warmth of his kitchen, instead of watching them outdoors on a neighborhood rink, as Wayne puts in long hours on skates. Where Gretzky differed from others in his development was in the extraordinary commitment of time on the ice. "From the age of 3 to the age of 12, I could easily be out there for 8 to 10 hours a day," Gretzky has said. In his autobiography, he wrote, Gretzky would prod next-door neighbor Brian Rizzetto to play in goal after sundown in order to practice his backhand. He not only enthusiastically practiced long hours every day, but he also started working on his skills at an extraordinarily young age. When asked how he managed, at age 10, to score 378 goals in a single season, Gretzky explained, "Walter's drills were his own invention, but were ahead of their time in Canada." Gretzky would later remark that the Soviet national team's practice drills, which impressed Canada in 1972, had nothing to offer him. "I'd been doing these drills since I was 3. My dad was very smart." In his autobiography, Gretzky describes how at practices, his dad would drill him on the fundamentals of smart hockey. Much has been written about Gretzky's highly developed hockey instincts, but he once explained that what appeared to be instinct was, in large part, the effect of his relentless study of the game. As a result, he developed a deep understanding of its shifting patterns and dynamics. Peter Gzowski says that elite athletes in all sports understand the game so well, and in such detail, that they can instantly recognize and capitalize upon emerging patterns of play. Analyzing Gretzky's hockey skills, he says, "What we take to be creative genius is in fact a reaction to a situation that he has stored in his brain as deeply and firmly as his own phone number." Gzowski presented this theory to Gretzky, and he fully agreed. "Absolutely," Gretzky said. "That's 100% right. It's all practice. I got it from my dad. 9 out of 10 people think it's instinct, and it isn't. Nobody would ever say a doctor had learned his profession by instinct. Yet in my own way I've put in almost as much time studying hockey as a medical student puts in studying medicine." But Gretzky's skill as an athlete was not all mental. He had remarkable stamina, as evidenced by the fact that most of Gretzky's goals were scored late in the game. In the year he scored 92 goals, for example, 22 of them went in the net during the first period, 30 in the second, and 40 in the third. Like Gordie Howe, he possessed an exceptional capacity to renew his energy resources quickly. In 1980, when an exercise physiologist tested the recuperative abilities of all of the Edmonton Oilers, Gretzky scored so high the tester said that he thought the machine had broken. He was, in fact, an exceptional all-around athlete. Growing up, he was a competitive runner and also batted .492 for the Junior Intercounty Baseball League's Brantford CKCP Braves in the summer of 1980. As a result, he was offered a contract by the Toronto Blue Jays. History repeated itself in June 2011, when Gretzky's 17-year-old son, Trevor, was drafted by the Chicago Cubs. Trevor signed with the Cubs the next month. Gretzky also excelled at baseball and box lacrosse, which he played during the summer. At age 10, after scoring 196 goals in his hockey league, he scored 158 goals in lacrosse. According to him, lacrosse was where he learned to protect himself from hard checks. In those days you could be hit from behind in lacrosse, as well as cross-checked, so you had to learn how to roll body checks for self-protection. Gretzky, who weighed far less than the NHL average, adroitly applied this technique as a professional player, avoiding checks with such skill that a rumor circulated that there was an unwritten rule not to hit him. But Gretzky himself dispelled the rumor at the end of one grueling season with the Edmonton Oilers, in which he had suffered a mild concussion as a result of what writer Michael Benson called a cheap shot from Winnipeg Jets star center Dale Hawerchuk. "People say there is an unwritten rule that you can't hit Gretzky," he said, "but that is not true." He received a good deal of cover from burly Oiler defensemen Dave Semenko and Marty McSorley. The latter followed Gretzky to the LA Kings in 1989, where he played the same policeman role for several more years. But Gretzky fought back against unfair hits in another way. "If a guy ran him, Wayne would embarrass that guy," said former Oiler Leif Golin, to Sports Illustrated. "He'd score 6 or 7 points on him. I saw him do it night after night." Gretzky was a most elusive target. Fellow Hockey Hall of Famer Dennis Potvin compared attempting to hit Gretzky to wrapping your arms around fog. "You saw him, but when you reached out to grab him your hands felt nothing, maybe just a chill." The 205-pound, 93 kilograms, Potvin, a 3-time winner of the Norris Trophy for Best Defenseman, added that part of the problem in hitting Gretzky hard was that he was a tough guy to dislike. What was there to hate about Gretzky? It was like running Gandhi into a corner. Gretzky became known for setting up with the puck behind the net, an area that was nicknamed Gretzky's office, because of his great prowess there. He could pass to an open teammate, jump out for his own shot on a wraparound, or even try to shoot the puck over the goal to bounce it off the goaltender's back and into the net. Gretzky became accustomed to the position after watching and studying Bobby Clarke play in that zone. In honor of his abilities, a large 99 was painted on the ice behind the goal at each end of the rink for his final game.
Post-retirement.
Gretzky was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame on November 22, 1999, becoming the 10th player to bypass the 3-year waiting period. The Hall of Fame then announced that he would be the last player to do so. He was inducted into the IIHF Hall of Fame in 2000. In addition, Gretzky's jersey number 99 was retired league-wide at the 2000 NHL All-Star Game. Gretzky's jersey number 99 is only the second number ever to be retired league-wide by a major North American sports league, the other being Jackie Robinson's number 42, which was retired by Major League Baseball in 1997. In October 1999, Edmonton honored Gretzky by renaming one of Edmonton's busiest freeways, Capilano Drive, which passes by Rexall Place, to Wayne Gretzky Drive. Also in Edmonton, the local transit authority assigned a rush hour bus route numbered number 99 which also runs on Wayne Gretzky Drive for its commute. In 2002, the Kings held a jersey retirement ceremony and erected a life-sized statue of Gretzky outside the Staples Center. The ceremony was delayed until then so that Bruce McNall, who had recently finished a prison sentence, could attend. His hometown of Brantford, Ontario, renamed Park Road North to Wayne Gretzky Parkway as well as renaming the North Park Recreation Centre to the Wayne Gretzky Sports Centre. Brantford further inducted Gretzky into its Walk of Fame in 2004. On May 10, 2010, he was awarded the Ambassador Award of Excellence by the LA Sports and Entertainment Commission.
Phoenix Coyotes.
Almost immediately after retirement, several NHL teams approached him about an ownership role. In May 2000, he agreed to buy a 10% stake in the Phoenix Coyotes in a partnership with majority owner Steve Ellman, taking on the roles of alternate governor, managing partner and head of hockey operations. The Coyotes were in the process of being sold and Ellman convinced Gretzky to come on board, averting a potential move to Portland, Oregon. The sale was not completed until the following year, on February 15, 2001, after two missed deadlines while securing financing and partners before Ellman and Gretzky could take over. The sale completed with the addition to the partnership of Jerry Moyes. Gretzky convinced his longtime agent Michael Barnett to join the team as its general manager. In 2005, rumors began regarding Gretzky becoming the head coach of the team, but were denied by Gretzky and the Coyotes. He agreed to become head coach on August 8, 2005. Gretzky made his coaching debut on October 5, and won his first game on October 8 against the Minnesota Wild. He took an indefinite leave of absence on December 17 to be with his ill mother. Phyllis Gretzky died of lung cancer on December 19. Gretzky resumed his head coaching duties on December 28. In 2006, Moyes became majority owner of the team, and Ellman majority owner of the Glendale Arena and Westgate development. There was uncertainty about Gretzky's role until it was announced on May 31, 2006 that he had agreed to a 5-year contract to remain head coach. On May 5, 2009, the Coyotes holding company, Dewey Ranch Hockey LLC, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. An ownership dispute involving Research in Motion's Jim Balsillie, with the intention of relocating the team, and the NHL itself arose, which eventually ended up in court. Gretzky did not attend the Coyotes training camp, leaving associate head coach Ulf Samuelsson in charge, due to an uncertain contractual status with the club, whose bankruptcy hearings were continuing. Bidders for the club had indicated that Gretzky would no longer be associated with the team after it emerged from bankruptcy, and on September 24, 2009, Gretzky stepped down as head coach and head of hockey operations of the Coyotes.
Winter Olympics.
Gretzky was executive director of the Canadian men's hockey team at the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, Utah. On February 18, he lashed out at the media at a press conference, frustrated with media and fan comments regarding his team's uninspiring 1-1-1 start. His temper boiled over after Canada's 3-3 draw versus the Czech Republic, as he launched a tirade against the perceived negative reputation of Team Canada amongst other national squads, and called rumors of dissent in the dressing room the result of American propaganda. "They're loving us not doing well," he said, referring to American hockey fans. American fans online began calling Gretzky a crybaby. Defenders said he was merely borrowing a page from former coach Glenn Sather to take the pressure off his players. Gretzky addressed those comments by saying he spoke out to protect the Canadian players, and the tirade was not staged. The Canadian team won the gold medal, its first in 50 years. Gretzky again acted as executive director of Canada's men's hockey team at the 2006 Winter Olympics in Turin, Italy, though not with the success of 2002. The team was eliminated in the quarter-finals and failed to win a medal. He was asked to manage Canada's team at the 2005 Ice Hockey World Championships, but declined due to his mother's poor health. Gretzky also served as an ambassador and contributor in Vancouver, winning the bidding process to host the 2010 Winter Olympics. He went to Prague, Czech Republic, and was part of the presentation team. Gretzky was the final Olympic torchbearer at the 2010 Winter Olympics. He was one of 4 who lit the cauldron at BC Place Stadium during the opening ceremony, although one was unable to due to technical difficulties with one of the cauldron's arms, which failed to raise, and then jogged out of the stadium, where he was then driven by police escorts through the streets of downtown Vancouver to light a second, outdoor cauldron near the Vancouver Convention Centre located in the city's downtown waterfront district. Under IOC rules, the lighting of the Olympic cauldron must be witnessed by those attending the opening ceremony, implying that it must be lit at the location where the ceremony is taking place. Although another IOC rule states that the cauldron should be witnessed outside by the entire residents of the entire host city, this was not possible since the ceremony took place indoors. However, VANOC secretly built a second outdoor cauldron next to the west building of the Vancouver Convention Centre, and Gretzky was secretly chosen to light this permanent cauldron. Quickly word spread through the downtown Vancouver area that Gretzky was indeed the final torchbearer, and very soon a crush of people came running after the police escort to cheer Gretzky on and hopefully catch a glimpse of him carrying the torch to the outdoor cauldron. For the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, he was named special advisor to the Canada men's national ice hockey team.
Heritage Classic.
Although Gretzky had previously stated he would not participate in any old-timers exhibition games, on November 22, 2003, he took to the ice one last time to help celebrate the Edmonton Oilers' 25th anniversary as an NHL team. The Heritage Classic, held at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, was the first regular season NHL game to be played outdoors. It was preceded by the Mega Stars game, which featured Gretzky and many of his Oiler dynasty teammates against a group of retired Montreal Canadiens players, whose likes included Claude Lemieux, Guy Lafleur and others. Despite frigid temperatures, the crowd numbered 57,167, with an additional several million watching the game on television. The Edmonton alumni won the Megastars game 2-0, while Montreal went on to win the regular season game held later that day, 4-3.
Personal life.
Gretzky has made several TV appearances, including a Dance Fever celebrity judge, and an unforgettable appearance, acting in a dramatic role alongside Victor Newman in The Young and the Restless in 1981. In 1984, he traveled to the Soviet Union to film a television program on Russian goaltender Vladislav Treshuk. Gretzky hosted the Saturday Night Live comedy program in 1989. A fictional crime-fighting version of him served as one of the main characters in the cartoon Pro Stars in 1991. Gretzky has made over 60 movies, network television and video appearances as himself, according to IMDb, as of February 2012.
Family.
While serving as a celebrity judge on Dance Fever, Gretzky met his future wife, American actress Janet Jones. According to Wayne, Janet does not recall him being on the show. They met regularly after that, but did not become a couple until 1987 when they ran into each other at a Los Angeles Lakers game that Wayne and Alan Thicke were attending. Wayne proposed in January 1988, and they were married on July 16, 1988 in a lavish ceremony the Canadian press dubbed the Royal Wedding. Broadcast live throughout Canada from Edmonton's St. Joseph's Basilica, members of the fire department acted as guards at the church steps. The event reportedly cost Gretzky over $1 million. Gretzky got U.S. citizenship in 1988. The couple have 5 children, Paulina, T.Y., Trevor, Tristan, and Emma. T.Y. played hockey at Shattuck St. Mary's, but quit, and returned home. He now attends Arizona State University. Trevor was drafted by the Chicago Cubs in the 2011 MLB Draft.
Business ventures.
Gretzky has owned or partnered in the ownership of 2 sports teams before becoming a partner in the Phoenix Coyotes. In 1985, Gretzky bought the Hull Olympiques of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League for $175,000 Canadian dollars. During his ownership, the team's colors were changed to silver and black, presaging the change in team jersey colors when he played for the Los Angeles Kings. For the first season that Gretzky played in Los Angeles, the Kings had their training camp at the Olympiques Arena. Gretzky eventually sold the team in 1992 for $550,000 Canadian dollars. In 1991, Gretzky purchased the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League with Bruce McNall and John Candy. The club won the Grey Cup championship in the first year of the partnership but struggled in the 2 following seasons, and the partnership sold the team before the 1994 season. Only McNall's name was engraved on the Grey Cup as team owner, but in November 2007, the CFL corrected the oversight, adding Gretzky's and Candy's names. In 1992, Gretzky and McNall partnered in an investment to buy a rare Honus Wagner T206 cigarette card for $451,000, later selling the card. It most recently sold for $2.8 million. Gretzky was a board member and executive officer of the Hespeler Hockey Company. As of May 2008, Gretzky's current business ventures include the Wayne Gretzky's restaurant in Toronto near the Rogers Centre in downtown Toronto, opened in partnership with Tom Batov in 1993. Gretzky is also a partner in First Team Sports, a maker of sports equipment, and Worldwide Roller Hockey, Incorporated, an operator of roller hockey rinks. He has endorsed and launched a wide variety of products, from pillowcases to insurance. Forbes estimates that Gretzky earned $93.8 million from 1990-98.
Transactions.
June 12, 1978, signed as a free agent with the Indianapolis Racers. November 2, 1978, traded by the Indianapolis Racers, along with Eddie Mio and Peter Driscoll, to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for $700,000 and future considerations. August 9, 1988, traded by the Edmonton Oilers, along with Mike Krzyzewski and Marty McSorley, to the Los Angeles Kings in exchange for Jimmy Carson, Martin Gelinas, Los Angeles' 1989, 1991 and 1993 first-round draft choices, and $15 million. February 27, 1996, traded by the Los Angeles Kings to the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Roman Vopat, Craig Johnson, Patrice Tardif, St. Louis' 1996 fifth-round draft choice, and 1997 first-round draft choice. July 21, 1996, signed as a free agent with the New York Rangers. Source:
Career statistics. Playing career.
Figures in boldface italics are NHL records. GP equals games played. G equals goals. A equals assists. PTS equals points. PIM equals penalty minutes. +/ equals plus minus. PP equals power play goals. sh equals short-handed goals. GW equals game-winning goals.
Coaching record.
Source: